Read all about it. Isn't that what they used to say? And so today we're going to be talking about extra. Being extra, showing up extra, and showing you're weird, and and finding the people that resonate with your message, with what you're sharing, with who you want to find. And so this idea of being extra is your superpower. And so that's something that Stephanie and I are going to tackle today. And we've already been cracking each other up behind the scenes. So we're hoping to pull back the curtain and let some of that extra come out today. So my name is Elizabeth Doss, and I am a content creator, social media manager, but I also create animated GIFs to harness people's thought leadership and think about GIFs strategically. And so I really enjoy helping people bring joy back to social media, create community, etc. But I'm going to hand things over to Stephanie this morning as we get started because she's already making me laugh.
Listen, I don't even know where to begin other than this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun because as we thought about it, and be vulnerable with yourself as you listen to this conversation. Hopefully, it cracks you up as much as it did us as we were right before going live. I'm Stephanie Gillis-Polgard. I am the brand architect behind Take Roots Consulting. I help businesses do the storytelling through all of the channels, whether it's through those traditional forms, the way back in the days after doing this and being in this space for 25 plus years. Ooch, ow, that sounds long, but I'm seasoned on the storytelling front. So yeah, the more traditional and yet the social media component and how much that has expanded. So to go and engage in conversation both on and offline is an important piece. So when you think about PR, marketing strategy, that is my wheelhouse, and I just want to dive right in. Like literally putting together this extra list for myself. First of all, totally was like the ahas and yes, and hopefully there's some that are relatable because Elizabeth, we shy away from it a lot. I
Mhm.
put it up even when we were promoting today's conversation and putting it out there on LinkedIn. And I'll be honest, over the course of my career, yeah, I've been told a lot. Oh God,
Yeah.
Stephanie, like, you're a lot. And it just was like, then I started to go, well, second
Mhm.
guess myself when you actually go ahead and lean into who you truly are and how you can show up.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm a passionate person. Yes, I'm a high energy person. Yes, I love lattes. This starts to be, again, relatable in how it is, but also just the fact that why should I be anything more or less than what I really am? So when I'm showing up into a conversation, the way I appear on a platform should be the same as how I am in real life. So, today, hopefully, we are going to guide a few people into being okay with their extra. So, I'm going to start pushing some buttons on my end. Elizabeth, I want to maybe challenge you to share one of those extra moments or extra characteristics about you, given that I know when I talk about you, it is about sparking that joy, but it's so much more than that. I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to push some buttons, and then we're going to keep going into this conversation.
Yeah, sure. So, as Stephanie, as I was thinking about this conversation today, I was reminded of a story. So, as a kid, I was super quiet, really just w- try to go with the flow, try to be the good girl, well, I mean, I still try to be a good girl, but, but get good grades, all of the things. And I remember going away to youth camp, and it was like the first time that I had been away from my parents and from my sister. And I love my parents and I love my sister, but between my dad and my sister, they are the most type A outgoing. And I think I wasn't conscientious of that. This is me looking back on that time period, realizing that a lot of my self, what like I kept down, not down, but like I hid because they were absorbing all the air in the room. So there's that. But when I was in my own element and I was a part of they split us up into teams, into tribes for camp, and we had to come with our own cheers, and we were playing sports against each other. We were competing in different things, that type of stuff. But the leaders of my group were very shy and very quiet, and there was a gap that needed fulfilled. And so I stepped up to kind of be the cheerleader and to like, and so I was over the top because I was trying to do this. Well, some of my parents' friends were leaders at that camp, and they when they came for a visit, they started calling me this nickname, and I hate it now because the connotation, but it Spunky SC, that was me from South Carolina. And so my parents were looking at me like, you really? And I think part of what it did was it unlocked this part of me that was like, I don't I have I have my own voice to be able to share. And what I was trying to do was to bring joy to some younger kids who were scared of being away from home for the first time, and try to getting them involved and getting us excited. And so I do get that sometimes my personality is a chameleon. I'm going to be what you need for the moment. Like, I'm going to adapt and adopt. But what I realized is I don't have to be that in my own space, in my own understanding. And so what it did for me was unlock this part of wanting to bring joy wherever I was, even at home now, and now playing with my nieces, playing with, and so bringing letting that flood come back into me. And so I say all of that to say that I had a college professor who we would say, I've mentioned this on the show before, and we were a part of a choir. We had like a 100-person choir, and he would tell us, if you don't feel foolish and how you're shaping your mouth in the intensity with which you're singing, whether it's the quietest note or the loudest moment, if you don't feel foolish, then you're going to look foolish compared to the rest of the people that are singing with their whole heart. And it always stuck with me, because if you show up thinking about all of the other people's opinions, and you start self-editing, and you start thinking, oh, what if they see me do that, what if I'm, all this, if you start getting into that place, you are going to cut off the very things that make you you. And Stephanie has taught me this over the years, that the more you show up as yourself on these social platforms, excuse me, I have to cough. The more you show up as yourself, the more people get to know who you are, so that when they meet the person that they see on in the screen in real life, those two things are the same. You're not pretending to be something that you're not. And so anyway, I know that I just kind of went all over the place, but recognizing those things in yourself, say, wait a second, is this actually me, or is this me self editing to what I think I want? And James and I have been having this conversation this week in particular, and but we're talking about doing things with our whole heart and what that looks like. And if you lean into who you are with your whole heart, I think you're going to see some magic happen. A couple of things. One, you're going to start to attract the people that you want to work with, that you want to see succeed. Like, and it's there's going to be this part where the give and take, you're going to start seeing some of that magic happen. And then also to start to rid yourself of people pleasing or trying to pull and all these other things. I feel like I'm in everywhere except where we're supposed to be. Anyway, back to you, Steph. Ah.
I don't think that was in fact I was like, oh, this is such a good wraparound. And it made me think about my own story. And again, it's rooted, crazy enough, take roots, but it is rooted in family. Third child, third girl, fighting for all the things, and asking questions to the point that my mom's like, man, you ask a lot of questions. And then it was like, you should be a reporter. You ask a lot of questions. And funny enough, now, yes, I am not a reporter, but I tend to work with a lot of them, and
Yep.
journalists and media and that storytelling. And
And
even
you
when
ask a lot of
I'm
questions.
Yes, and I ask a lot of questions when I'm working with clients or working on a
Mhm.
project to drill down, to understand. And I got to tell you, not going to lie, it's kind of a superpower,
Yeah.
because that clarity is so important in knowing not just who you are, but why you do what you do, why you want to work with the people you want to work with, how, if you're storytelling, and we're all storytellers, how we're showing up to tell it, getting that clarity is so important. And when we were putting together our own extra lists, because I have to look on the screen because there's like a lot of them,
Yeah.
like think about this, Stephanie, anybody who knows me, right? Okay, yes. So we've already established I ask a lot of questions. Most people know that too caffeinated could be on the extra list. But what does that actually mean?
Mhm.
Came up with this whole energizer in chief mode, right? Yeah, I have a lot of energy, but that's kind of contagious. And it certainly can be. Now, it's too much for some people. And that's what I usually lean into. I say, I know I'm a lot, I'm not for everybody. And I'm completely okay with that. You can't be everything to everybody. That's exhausting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it kind of leans back into what you were saying is when you show up as you with your whole heart and you lean into that, you start to attract the people that you want to have in your community, maybe those potential clients that you want to work with, the types of people that are just in your own network. But yeah, the too opinionated, yeah, one can argue that I'm a little opinionated, but the way to flip that into a superpower, and then I'm going to throw it back over to you, Elizabeth, to hear some of yours. The too opinionated also can be, it's a strong point of view.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and and that's what makes the brand stand out, right? Instead of just blending in, how do you stand out? Well, if you have a strong point of view, or if you're trying to position yourself as a key opinion leader, a key thought leader in a particular area or industry, shouldn't you have a strong point of view? So to be opinionated, to be direct, think about it from the other side. It's
Mhm.
clear, it's refreshing
Mhm.
when you're direct. And to have that strong point of view means something now, probably more than ever.
Yeah.
Back over to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, and when you're talking about the asking a lot of the questions and then being direct, when I think about what you do for a living, it's just so fascinating because it is that you have a limited amount of time to quickly dive into a client and a brand. A lot of times because there's an event coming up, there's a fundraising coming up, there's something coming up where you need clarity quickly. So your superpower of asking a lot of questions but then boiling down to what's most important. And I know that sometimes, like with you talking about the opinionated part, but when there's a limited amount of time and it's not just your limited amount of time, it's you introducing the idea to the public or to the target market, you have a limited amount of time to do that. And so when you're talking about being direct and being clear and being opinionated, you have to fight for, I know that you think that your business is about this, but actually this is where we're at, where I see the hub coming from. And it can even transition that to have that point of view has this ability to open up a world for people. And so I do think that that is absolutely fascinating that your superpower is unlocking other stuff. So really quick, so Stephanie had done this in ChatGPT, and so she could tell, we can in the comments on LinkedIn or whatever, we'll drop the prompts that we were using for these. But this was mine. Based on everything you know about me, Elizabeth Doss of Izzy Inc., what is extra about me? Make me laugh, give me titles, and why. And so it says, "Oh, Elizabeth, you are delightfully extra, the kind of extra that makes people wonder if they need a second cup of coffee just to keep up." So here's your personalized roster of titles with reasons, of course. So I'm gonna read the first two and then hand it back to you, Steph. My first one was the director of too many ideas, and that is me. I'm like here, there, and everywhere. Because when someone says, "What if we made a reel?" you already have a storyboard, a parody title, 3 trending audios, and a GIF pack in mind. But before they've even finished their sentence, and it's true. If they give the idea, like I have it in mind. I've got it going. Like I'm before I've even finished, like it's there. And then the second one, and then I'm gonna hand it back to you, Steph. The human juice box of energy. I also love this. Here, let me open your plastic straw for you, and you take a big sip because people think they're signing up for social media consulting, but what they really get is a Capri Sun sized blast of enthusiasm that pokes a straw through their Monday blues. Oh, I thought that was so sweet. Anyway,
That,
so I will
that is
hand it back to you.
hilarious. Well, I had right the director of Too Many Ideas, and when you think about it from my perspective, similarly, given it knows a lot about me and the work that I do, the extra is still this too many ideas at once. But the way to form that in the superpower mindset is more about that fountain of creativity, that you have the ability to see connections that others might miss, right? Because we're always trying to connect dots or see where those
Yes.
might naturally live or form. Feeding it back to you, Elizabeth, in the same way of as you work with a client and they have this idea of what a custom gift might look like or a whole gallery of gifts and stickers. Well, they're telling you about the business. Meanwhile, your brain is going, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. And I think about our work together and how that sparked, so many. Started simple,
Yep.
and then as you got to know me, the personality,
Mhm.
the story behind Take Roots and what it was about, this flood of ideas. So I started really small and gave you a tidbit, but then those creative juices, as the director of Too Many Ideas, but really is unlocking the superpower of you taking that and being such a creative person. Your brain naturally works differently than mine. You're going to show up differently than I am, but
Mhm.
again, it's this leaning in to who we are. And I love how you framed it and the way you and James are visiting that notion of when you show up with your whole heart.
Mhm.
Like it's going to
Mhm.
feel differently to the people that you're showing up to,
Yep.
whether that's online or offline, right? In real
Mhm.
life, because you know your intention, and it's pure and you're showing up as
Mhm.
yourself. And so, before I throw it back to you, I'm going to share another one from my extra list because I mean, I think all of them are funny. This one, it read me to a T, right? The too many emojis, exclamation points in the side comments, also known as gifts, right? Because I love to have a full conversation in gifts. But when you think about what that superpower might be or how to twist that in a positive light, it makes it human and
Yes.
that people don't feel like they're connecting with a robot. We know that people do business with people. We know
Yes.
that when we show up as ourselves on and offline, that we start to build those relationships, we start to drive those conversations. And so while I do love emojis and I do love memes and I do love gifs and I do love exclamation points and I do love coffee, um, as the energizer in chief, I'm going to own that and I'm going to step into everything I do with a lot of energy. What I think is shocking to a lot of people is I show up here live with you every week or most weeks, and I show up in spaces with a lot of energy, but that's actually not my natural habitat. I force myself to do it, and it shocks people when I actually say, yeah, I'm an extrovert introvert. Like I am, as you said, a chameleon. Like I will show up how I need to show up based on the situation. But usually, if I'm working on big events, which I am right now, with a lot of things, or attending lots of meetings, or networking, or whatever the case may be, I will show up as Stephanie and fully caffeinated Stephanie in all that energy or the energizer in chief. But then when I leave, I'm usually exhausted and I, turn into a recluse and
Yes.
want to be in my home and not talk to people for a while.
Yep.
And again, it usually shocks people because they think you're so outgoing, you're so social. Like, no, I actually force myself to do it. It's not a
Mhm.
natural state for me. So
Yeah.
it's another little bit of the layer of what is Stephanie. Back over to you, Elizabeth.
And so, because when you're talking about that, it's so true. I'm the same way when I'm in that environment, when I'm at conferences, when I'm at, like I'm gonna show up to the best of my ability with with that, but also with the understanding that my vision and my goals haven't changed. Because for Stephanie, her goals are are the same. She's wanting to help make other people shine. She's wanting to get to the root take roots of what's actually being shared, and then but she's going to use whatever skills she has in her toolbox to make that happen. So if it's a board meeting, she's going to be the one that's over there asking the detailed questions, and getting absorbing all that content, or listening silently, observing what's actually going on in the room so that she can understand personality types, who she can um, motivate or amplify their voice because they're not being heard by the others and all that. I just have this imagination of like what you're like, but this understanding of the goal, the vision, and you've got to get a hold of your vision. And one thing, if you're curious about doing that, I would highly recommend reaching out to Richard Liverman of Richer Solutions, because we have both worked with him, and there's a part of him digging into your brand DNA where you can find this place. So visit richersolutions.com. Yes, this is a commercial. But this understanding, because when we did basically the Venn diagram of me, my business, my life pursuit, all the stuff, we came to this nugget of bring joy. That is my vision. Now, bringing joy in a concert looks one way. Bringing joy at a funeral looks very different. Because I'm joy looks like peace in that moment. And so understanding that my vision is still this, I'm still going to show up and sit silently next to you when something terrible's happening. And just to let you know that I'm there. I'm not going to try to fix your problems, but I want to show up for the people in my life. But I'm also going to show up at the concert and scream in the top of my lungs, except the one I went to the other night. I saw James Taylor in concert, which I've seen him before, and it was a local thing. It was just the venue part of it was horrible. It was like the Southwest seating of concerts. No one had assigned seats. It was an outdoor event. And when you think about the demographic for James Taylor, you should not be making elderly people walk around in the dark on a hillside. It's just bad, bad news. It was, oh my gosh, it was just really frustrating. I went with my sister, and like I said, she's type A, and people stood in front of us because we're on a lawn, and she like says really loudly to me, "Man, I really wish I could see the stage." And like the people standing in front of us were like, "Oh, are you? I mean, are you wanting to see the stage?" And Mary's like, "Kind of." Like, so, and everybody around us like started clapping for her. She's like, "Everybody good around here? I'll take care of it." But sorry, but this idea of when you show up, do it. So I'm going to share one more of mine real quick, and then we'll hand it back to you. So this one, the Monet of memes. I was like, oh, because I love my art history and stuff. But it says you don't just make gifts; you make gift strategies. Who else can take a shrimp snap or a duck abandonment story and turn it into marketing gold? You, ma'am. And those are specific pieces of content that I made for clients. But this idea of let me take your idea and let's go deeper with it. That's what with Stephanie, like, yeah, let's start on the surface stuff, but as I get to know you and your brand, let's see where we can go in humor, in thought, in all these other places. So I'll hand it back to you, Stephanie.
I love that. And I would have loved to have seen James Taylor. So cool that you got to see him twice. Okay, my last one. Oh, there's a few more, but this one I think is good. Given again, who is Stephanie? What does Stephanie do for a living? And putting all of that context around it, the extra, the too much storytelling. Is there such a thing as too much storytelling? I actually don't believe so. But the actual part of it is that's the sticky stuff. The storytelling is the sticky stuff. We all know that, right? Stories are what people remember long after the facts, long after the branding, long after what it's the stories, it's the connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that that's on my extra list,
Yeah.
that it could possibly be. Although, again, I will argue that I don't think that there's ever a time where you could say there's too much storytelling. I actually don't think most of us do enough storytelling. But if you can lean into those pieces of you and make that the sticky stuff, how cool would that be? About you, your brand, what you do, the business, like all of those pieces. What makes you you? Why do you do what you do? What's different about what you do? And then start applying that. Yes, of course, you use the different platforms to tell, but stop putting stuff in drafts. Guilty, right? I'm guilty of it. I know you are, Elizabeth. Like if I open up my Instagram right now, there's probably 20 plus drafts
Yes.
that are sitting there waiting to go. Why haven't I pushed them yet? Well, one could argue time. Okay, but that's the easy argument. But what are the other reasons? And it kind of circles back to what you were saying at the beginning of this conversation of, are we self-editing, and why are we doing that? And if we can just lean in a little bit more about into who we are, and I love that notion of showing up with a whole heart. It lands differently. It just lands differently with the people that you work with, the clients that you want to work with, and who you attract into your community if you can do it with a whole heart. Back over to you, Elizabeth.
I'm glad that you mentioned the whole heart thing. Some of you know this, but I my undergrad degree is in classical voice. So I've been trained in opera, and but I've also done a lot of musical theater. I've also led music at our church for over 20 years now. But the thing that shifted the most with me is, there's a group that I love to follow, but they talk about the 18-inch journey, from the 18 inches from your head to your heart. And you may have the idea of what this is, but have you actually put the heart into what it is? And we'll think through the strategies, we'll try to tackle all these things, and yet we'll leave out the most important part, which is the human part of us. And with all the AI stuff and everything going on, because people are using it more and more, and that's fine. um but there's going to be a resurgence, I think, of people embracing their weird. I saw a post about this. I'm trying to, or was it Christo? No. Was
Yeah,
it?
yeah, basically that concept
Yeah.
of you're weird, give or
Yeah.
take, not quoting him. He didn't say it like that, but that concept.
I'll try to find the link to that and put it in the chat too. But this idea of the way that we stave off, or the way that we show up, it's going to stand out even more if we are a voice that is exceeding, like, the the gravitational pull of AI. And so how do you stand out in those ways? So Stephanie, you're talking about all the drafts that you have. One of my next ones was the squirrel with a spreadsheet. And what it actually means is you're managing 47 projects at once, but each acorn has a label. To the others, it looks like chaos. To you, it's organized creativity with a dash of adrenaline, which I did love that. And I know we're getting closer to the end. So what's funny to me is the last one that it brought up for me was, and I don't like this title, so we're gonna have to fix that. But the cult leader of Cultivate Weekly is what it called me. Every week, you invite the internet to gather around the virtual campfire, hand them a marshmallow, and say, "Don't shrink yourself, darling. Be extra." But also, here's a Canva tip.
Okay, so you're right. The title, eek, but the way it describes what you do and how you show up, spot on.
Yeah.
Like spot on. That is exactly who you are. You bring the people together. You say, "Come on, sit around the campfire. Let's have a little chat. Don't forget the marshmallows. And by the way, here's that one extra tip that you need to get through the day. And I'll get around to mine next week." I love it.
I
I
do
love it.
too.
I will say my last and final one on this particular list is around this notion of being too enthusiastic. Dare I say, different mindset than the whole energy level, but this notion of the too enthusiastic. And again, if we flip it, the way it's framed is around it being contagious in a very positive way, right? So that the excitement kind of makes the people feel like that they should believe in themselves and their projects and why they're showing up and all of the things. So jumping on the energy train with or without caffeine, no judgment here. Clearly, I'm a fan of the lattes, but it's not a bad thing. Sometimes, it can be exhausting, and I think we've all probably experienced it, whether you're working on a team or working with on a project, or dare I say, working with a client that you kind of have to rally the troops all the time, and that's a big energy lift. And so if you have a lot of energy and that enthusiasm to bring that and make that happen, it can bode well for you. It might be exhausting, but again, it could be a superpower. And I think it's all about mindset
Yeah.
in how we walk into, the start of a week, the start of a project, the start of a meeting, the start of a conversation, the start of creating that next piece of content, whatever that is. Come into it again. I'm going to steal your line, Elizabeth, with your whole heart,
Yeah.
and it will land differently.
Yeah.
This has been such a great conversation and a nice friendly reminder that, hey, okay, these are kind of fun facts.
Yeah.
Again, I'll still lead with, I know I'm a lot. I'm good with that. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I embrace it now, because I know why I show up, and I
Yeah.
know why I do what I do. And I know what I've been able to do over
Mhm.
25 years. And that one, that's not arrogance, that's confidence. And, I think people want to work with people that are confident and
Yeah.
that can deliver and, will hold the line. So that's it for me. Look at me, cups up already. I'm going to let you close it out, Elizabeth, since we're just past that cutoff time.
Yeah, sure. So the last thing it said was the if as me as the cult leader of the Cultivate Weekly, what it actually means is Stephanie and I build communities around creativity. We're not just podcast hosts. We're giving people permission to embrace quirks, laugh at themselves, and learn new tools without the fear of being too much. And I loved that. I love that part. And it's a great way for us to finish. And by the way, guys, next Tuesday, we will be here again at the 10 a.m. hour. If you have any ideas for things that you'd like to talk about, we really, really love helping you brainstorm, think through ideas. Obviously, I mean, it made it on my list that I am like the idea person. I like that. I'll be your idea person. But Stephanie will ask you the hard questions, and then we can brainstorm all the things. But if there's some a feature you'd like to talk about, if there's something that you'd like to talk about, we would love to hear from you. And as always, I don't have a cup. I just realized cups up. As always, keep cups up, keep smiling, and go out and be extra this week. Okay. And with your whole heart. Be extra with your whole heart. All right. And we
Love it.
will see you next time.